and stuff that is actually sustainable in planning, we have to work with government. And unfortunately, in many cases, government organizations, municipal organizations tend to take really inhumane routes, when it comes to animals. So I want to understand what your experience has been in Goa so far.
So, talking about the large sterilization camp that we did, it was called the All Dogs Matter Camp, and it was in partnership with Worldwide Veterinary Services. Mission Rabies supported us, and the municipality of Margao provided us with the land where we could set up our camp. So that was the support that came in, and there were MLAs who were visiting us often. There was a lot of support from them as well. It was great. I mean, in 2 months, we sterilized, vaccinated, microchipped 2,600 plus dogs. And the number that really stands out for us is that out of the 2,600 dogs that came through our program, we had 4 reactive dogs only. And I'm not saying aggressive. These were dogs who were scared. So this just shows when you humanely handle an animal. From the point of, I don't call it dog catching either, I call it dog collection. From collecting the dog, having the dogs with you, and then releasing them back to their territory. Every step is monitored. Humanely, you have trained, experienced animal handlers, you have expert veterinary care, you have enough feet and hands on the ground to take care of this large number. And I would say it went pretty well. We're happy with what we achieved together.
We also, I think, have Dr. Bagai joining us right now. Shivani, I do want to understand this. So you did say reactive dogs, right? Can you tell us, for an ordinary person who's not a behaviorist?
Okay. So reactive in the sense... Yes, sorry. Reactive, I would say that the dogs were scared and they were vocal. So they were barking and they were saying, leave us alone. So it was a lot of that fear of them, of humans. So these were probably dogs that hadn't interacted with humans too much or had some experience that scared them. That's what I define as reactive. Mitali can, find that as well.
Yes, that is pretty much what we would call a reactive dog.
Yeah, so they were scared. And that's just 4 out of 2,600.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to that. We've got Dr. Bagai join us right now. Dr. Bagai is a pediatrician. Dr. Bagai, we will talk about rabies. We're talking about right now finding sustainable active solutions that community, government, and NGOs can participate in order to be able to solve for the problem of human-animal conflict in our cities. In your mind, what have you seen that has worked so far?
Hi, good evening, Faye. Long time. Hope all is well. I think being neutral, I myself personally don't have pets at home. But I think people who care for pets, it can be any pet, they need to care. But it doesn't mean that you start feeding stray dogs, stray animals on the street and expect someone else to be looking after them and looking after the welfare of the community. I'm absolutely candidly clear that stray dogs, however docile they may be, cannot be living in the same inhabitant as the community. So obviously we need shelter homes, we need sterilization of the dogs, the vaccination of the dogs, and so on, both at a governmental level and NGO level. My concern is really that dogs reproduce very quickly. They are there in the communities, they are there in building housing societies and close communities. And the people who are at risk, my voice is echoing, I think.
Yeah, we're just going to mute the other panelists. Go ahead.
Yeah. Doc. And keeping in mind that the highest number of stray dog bites in the world globally are in India. And India carries 36% of the world's rabies load case. If anyone has been posted as a medical professional in the rabies ward, you will not bat an eyelid to say that stray dogs, however stray or however non-stray they may be, cannot be living in a community where small children, elderlies, geriatric patients are walking around. They are rampant in the parks, they are rampant in the playgrounds, and they do bite. The saliva and the secretions of the dogs can carry rabies virus. 60% of the rabies deaths are less than 15 years of age. So obviously that's the vulnerable age group. There are more than 6,000 dog bites per day. That's a huge number. And we cannot say that this dog is clean and is not going to carry the rabies virus. Sorry, the rabies virus can remain dormant in the dorsal tract of the brain and the spinal cord for days and weeks together, and then suddenly it comes up with rabies. Rabies has no cure, and so does tetanus have no cure. The rabies vaccine itself poses the problem as far as costing is concerned, and the rabies immunoglobulin in lacerated open wounds, especially with muscle bites and with head, face, neck exposure, these immunoglobulins are prohibitively expensive. So I think we need a very concentrated community awareness. I think we need to sensitize the government agencies,
Okay.
but we need to protect a common citizen not to be bitten by a stray dog. Over to you.
1 second, Dr. Bagai. Let me ask the rest of the panel to respond. Balaji, do you want to respond first since you are with Mission Rabies? Go ahead.
Yeah, so to just I mean, in a community, all dogs are not having a rabies virus. So it is the virus is circulating in the population. So one dog bites other dog, and it keeps circulating in the population. So what we have done with our work is that first thing is that we have collaborated with the government agencies to start with. So in Goa, we are hugely working for 10 years with the government of Goa Animal Husbandry Department, in the Bangalore in a similar manner, and again in BMC, Bruhan Mumbai Corporation. We are also doing mass dog vaccination in Mumbai currently. So basically our work involves with three major pillars. That is surveillance, where if there is a suspected dog in the community, we collect the dog and quarantine the dog and assess for the symptoms and signs. So that is with the surveillance. Then also we run a 24/7 hotline for people to report suspected rabies cases in Bangalore and Goa, and there is a plan to start in Mumbai as well. And the other part, what we do is mass dog vaccination, where we collect, vaccinate, and release the dogs, so that the dogs are vaccinated. And this is an annual program. So we repeat these vaccinations annually in the same area, so that to increase the coverage and have a herd immunity in that area. That is the second program. And the third pillar of our program is mass awareness, community education, and school education. We send our teams to schools and communities to educate the masses on effects of rabies, and also how they can live along with coexist with dogs basically. And so basically our program lies on this, and with these strategies we were able to reach almost 5 million people across globe, and also go to almost all the schools in Goa. And right now we are also connecting the school education in Bangalore and Mumbai. We also have a lesson in a 6th standard science textbook which talks about rabies. So, and also we have controlled human and animal rabies to the major extent in Goa, because so this is rabies particularly, or free roaming dog issue is not a one particular sector's issue. It is multiple collaborators is required, which we need a human health department.
You did, Dr. Balaji, you said that you encourage people to report suspected rabies cases. How does one know what a suspected rabies case looks like?
So we kind of educate the masses about the 5 major signs of rabies. It is aggression, lethargy, and paralysis, and hypersalivation, and abnormal behavior. These are the 5 major signs to look for in any suspected rabies animal. So
May I also add hydrophobia, doctor?
Hydrophobia is not clearly seen in animals.
Okay.
It's a classical sign in humans. Hydrophobia is, but in dogs you don't see hydrophobia. The dogs tend to eat and drink water normally. At the end of the clinical signs, what happened is they paralyze their jaw, and the jaw is kind of open, and that's when the saliva is constantly dripping. So that's what happens with dogs and animals. Yeah. So what we call as alpha, if you can remember alpha. So A for aggression, L for lethargy, P for paralysis, H for hypersalivation, and A for abnormal behavior. Again,
I
alpha.
think in general, if one sees a dog that's looking a little sickly, you should call, either the local municipality or the NGOs that work in that area. Let them know that there is a dog in your neighborhood that's looking unwell, so that that dog is checked out. But I just want to, Mitali, if I bring you in here to respond to what Dr. Bagai said, he said yes, we understand, caring for dogs. But there are those people who feed community dogs and strays, and then that causes a problem for others, especially with children. We've had, I mean, I don't want to read the laundry list, but there is a very long list of people who say, there's almost every housing society is split down the middle. There are those who feed the dogs, and there are those who say, hey, this is a problem for us, this is not safe. So what is the solution there? Is there a method in which this, there's a middle ground that can be found?
So what I'd like to go back to is, it's not the feeders that is the primary source of food for the dogs. It's the wet garbage that's exposed. In cities such as Jamshedpur, the path that's run by the Tata, if you'll see, there's almost no stray dog because there is no exposed garbage, right? That is where the ecosystem is. That's where the stray dog is part of the human habitat. It's a scavenger.
Okay.
Right? So while we have the feeder debate, and yes, the rules are in place about, feed them separately. If you have a community dog, why don't you build kennels? Sterilization, of course, and those things happen simultaneously. The larger impact would be to not have waste, which helps these dogs procreate. That is the nexus of the two species.
What are
It's
the
not really
rules
a feeder
right
problem.
now? Do the people who feed the dogs have to take responsibility for vaccination as well?
So I don't think right now you do. What happens, it's a nexus between the BMC, because technically they are supposed to be the property as a community dog of the BMC, of the civic body, right? The feeders or the NGOs in that area, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shivani, because you work a lot more in this, facilitate the collecting or the capturing, the sterilization, the first aid, also just taking care of them if they're lost during Diwali, tagging them so you know how many dogs are in that area. So the on-ground work is done by them. The BMC works with NGOs in the collection, so the NGO can collect, or the BMC works with NGOs for sterilization. So the NGOs work as sterilization center. So right now it's a three-point program. Is that right, Shivani?
Oh, 1 second. I'm just going to get my producer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, it's a different, I guess it's different in every state, but that is the correct way to go about it. The feeders do look in on the vaccinations and as much as they can, and then they reach out to welfares to support them. And, that's how it actually
It's easier for the feeders to collect, you see, because the dog knows the feeder.
that. Yeah, and but
has a friendly.
Mitali, usually they don't
Yeah.
have the vehicles to transport
Yes.
the dogs.
So that's when the NGO comes in, or the civic
and
body.
they collect the dogs and take them. So they need
But a
that.
civic or NGO body for collection would be in that cruelty part that Shivani talks about, where you capture the dog as opposed to collect harmoniously.
Yeah.
Let me ask Dr. Bagai. Dr. Bagai, if feeders take or caregivers take responsibility for dogs to make sure that they're sterilized, that they're vaccinated on an annual basis, that those those documents are maintained, do you think that would solve the problem?
If you look at it on a ground level, most good families have difficulty in maintaining records of their own children's vaccinations. Uh, where on earth is the machinery and the infrastructure to maintain vaccination records of stray dogs? I think it looks brilliant in these kind of debates, but it's completely illogical, irrational, and unexpected that it's going to happen at the ground level. It's not going to happen. It does not happen. It hasn't happened, and it won't happen.
It has happened. I just did it at my camp. We vaccinated, sterilized, and microchipped 2,600 dogs. And the microchips hold their vaccination record, which location they're from. And,
Can I just complete? Thank
Sure.
you. So in a large city, let's say like Delhi, where I'm staying, in a reasonably good residential area, there is a huge amount of stray dogs. I'm not saying to cull the dogs. I'm not saying to mistreat the dogs. I'm saying to make sure that the But if you feed the dogs in a closed neighborhood where communities are settled, buildings are there, residential homes are there, bungalows are there, there is a potential risk to children, geriatrics, in fact, all age groups. My only limited point is that if you're going to feed the dog, please feed the dog, but take the responsibility that they are not on the road again. That's my limited point. If you're taking the responsibility, take the responsibility fully. Don't do a part measure just to feel good that you're feeding a dog. Oh, poor dog, I'm giving water, I'm giving food, I'm giving biscuits and XYZ. But the issue is that the dog is then back on the streets again. With regards to the garbage, yes, I mean there are open halos and waste collecting dumps where dogs go and scavenge and they eat, and then that brings them again in close proximity to community living. But stray dogs is a distinct risk, and rabies has no cure. Over to you.
Shivani, do you want to continue what you were saying, please?
I mean, we did pilot microchips at the camp. So we vaccinated, we sterilized, and we microchipped dogs. So we have their records, we have their medical records. Some of them had feeders details are on those chips as well. So there is a way of doing this, but this was done as a pilot to see how it can be done. It will need government support, it will need welfare support, and it will need citizen support for it to be activated on a larger scale.
Yeah.
But there is a way. We've just done it.
I want to read out some of the comments that are coming. Aditi Mittal says dogs are not only the responsibility of the feeders, they're the responsibility of the whole community. Hibbs says, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, please also suggest what should be done with dogs that you don't want in closed neighborhoods. Like what happens to those dogs? Because they can't, if I've understood correctly, we can't move them. There is a law that says that they can't be moved. Even after they're vaccinated, sterilized, they have to be dropped back to the same neighborhood or the same location they were picked up in. Mitali, is that correct?
There is, but there's also a law, and I'm going to come. We're just going to divert a little bit from rabies and talk about just threat to life. And I am really sort of going to stir the pot on that one. Is that if you do know that your dog is harmful, there is a law that says if you haven't taken the precautions, whether if it's a pet dog or if it's a community dog, and here as a community dog, it is under the ownership of the civic body, and it's a pet dog, it's under ownership, and by ownership I mean by law, because that's how the Constitution refers to the dog, is under me. And in several cases, as with the last one, the dogs have been a threat before, and they were under the guardianship of a bungalow close by. Over here, we have the law that says you knew this dog was harmful. The point of the nexus of the human-dog friendship is that you do not kill humans or threaten humans, and no dog should be allowed to be with a human who threatens it. So if you have a dog that is known to have a predatory instinct, which many dogs will have, and this will manifest usually in the dark, usually in the sunset hours, they're crepuscular, so that's when they have a drive, and children and geriatrics do look like slow-moving prey. We do have opportunity for friction, and if you do know a dog does this, the prime thing to do is for animal people to swoop in before anybody else sort of takes responsibility for this, and it ends very badly for the dogs on a very large scale, as we've seen this before in many states. So that's why it becomes a responsibility of, say, the feeder over there, the person, community, society over there, and somebody educated in dog behavior, because we can't just save the world on love enough, and remove this dog to, say, a long stay shelter where she leads a free life, but does not have opportunities to manifest what is her natural instinct. Certainly sterilization, because we don't want this to pass on through the genes for generation. But firstly, it has to be dog people who swoop in and put this dog in a long-term shelter, those paid farms where the dog lives out its life peacefully, but does not do harm.
Dr.
So that
Bagai,
is what my point is.
Yeah, you wanted to respond? Go ahead, please.
Again, I bring down everything to a grassroots level. Unless until a particular policy or a ruling by the court or indeed a guideline by the local civic authorities is implementable, it only remains a paper tiger packed in some file in some office space. The local civic authority, let's say vis-a-vis in Delhi, is called as MCD,
Yes.
Municipal Corporation of Delhi. The Municipal Corporation of Delhi has 101 workloads and job responsibilities, including looking after the streets, the lights, the sewage, cleaning of the roads, cleaning of the waste dumps, so on and so forth, maintaining of the parks, pruning of the trees. They are not cash surplus. I can't give you an exact figure, but they are not cash surplus. There are no adequate number or quantum of dog shelters. They don't have enough vans to wound up the stray dogs. They don't have enough vaccines to vaccinate these dogs. So unless and until a program can be implemented, it is no program at all. It's just a whisper from one person to another person. I think we have to move beyond a simple debate and make sure that this message reaches the agencies which have to make the guidelines and indeed implement them. Stray dogs are rampant all over. You can even see them in crossings, in red lights, in parks, in children areas. The Supreme Court ruling says there should be fixed timing to feed the dog. There has to be fixed spots where you feed the dog. Please tell me, how is it going to be implemented? There has to be a simple, logical common sense. Is it being done on the ground? No. In the basements of multi-rise, high-rise buildings where residents are staying, dogs are being produced like anything. They are being fed. They are going to bite, and therefore the risk of rabies. Therefore the risk of death.
And also, I just want to point out that maybe there is a need here to. So, one thing that is not uniform between Delhi and Mumbai, Dr. Bagai, is that the Mumbai Municipal Corporation is a very cash surplus. It has a lot of money. I don't believe cash is the problem. I believe a sense of priority is the problem here. Are you taking the problem seriously enough? Are you going to dedicate enough resources, enough energy to it? Mitali, I saw you react to that.
Yes, because you see, we almost have sorted the stray dog problem in South Mumbai. You almost find no street puppies because NGOs like the WSD have worked in conjunction with civic bodies, and our sterilization has been a success. Now we have puppies in the suburban areas of western suburbs that where I live. So this is an implementable program, and it doesn't have to do with the civic body itself. As you say, they don't have the cash, they don't have the vans. But what, at least in our city, they partner with NGOs, and that has been successful. So maybe that is something to look at.
Faye, if I may come in on a lighter vein, if Mumbai Municipal Corporation is so cash rich, this is an enough invitation for me to relocate back into
always.
Mumbai.
Please do.
Our air quality is marginally better as well.
I don't care about the air quality. I love Bombay.
Do it.
It's not Mumbai.
Over.
For me, it's still Bombay.
No, but and I want to now bring in, on one hand, we did talk about rabies, and I appreciate when we're talking about sterilization, when we're talking about rabies, but there is a bigger problem here. The problem is just of being chased, of being bitten, of being of being terrorized. That was my 2-year-old. Sorry. But some people are genuinely afraid of dogs. They have a pathological fear of dogs. Children tend to run away from a dog. That prompts a different response. There is,
Faye, I'll take your leave. I got an emergency beginning at 7:30. I'll take your leave. Sorry.
Yes, Dr. Bagai. Thank you for
talking to everyone.
Yes,
keep well. Keep well.
So I want to talk about with the three panelists who are left. I want to talk about behavior, dog bites, being chased by dogs, delivery people being chased by dogs, and just that general the fear that gets built in, and that is not that's a behavior thing. How do we solve for that? And whoever wants to tackle that, go ahead, please.
So I'm doing that in the school programs. Is what we're working on is addressing that with kids and college students and saying, when you're passing a dog's territory and he barks at you, he's actually just telling you that's his territory. So don't run, don't just look away and don't make eye contact. This is where canine behaviorists and trainers come in, who understand dog behavior, and they need to be integrated into the animal welfare space and the educational space, so this education can be passed forward, and that is what one is trying to do right now. So I'm taking trained behaviorists and dog trainers, and I'm taking a working therapy dog into my education programs, so the kids are learning with the dog. The dog, we're showing them that, this is what you do. If you don't want to meet the dog like this is how you approach a dog. I mean, the first step is how do you approach a dog? If the first thing we teach the children is, if you ask someone, is your dog friendly, then you go straight away to pat the dog. And that's what gets you bitten, because you haven't really asked the dog if you can pat it. So ask what the dog's name is, take the dog's name, and then touch the dog. This education needs to go forward, and it will reduce your dog bites. I genuinely believe that.
Balaji, you want to answer?
So yeah, I mean, this whole kind of issue is not only restricted to one part of a society. It is responsible of everybody. Like a community is coming in, citizens coming in, municipalities coming in. It's more or less like how we have to segregate our garbage at home. So it's just like I can say that no, it's not my duty. Like it's municipalities to take care of. So we need to have that kind of a every citizen should have kind of that feeling that it's our country and our place and our so we need to, and we have to coexist. Like there is no way, I mean, we cannot be coexisting even with multiple solutions. We need a collective approach for this. Like yes, so that's where like we, with respect to, like, I mean, we have taken one call, that is rabies, because it can be kind of solved with mass dog vaccinations and awareness and surveillance. So that is our kind of thing. With our education, we do a lot more than just rabies. Like we tell school children about like don't disturb a dog when the mother and puppies are there. So of course that particular dog will have a maternal instinct, so it's going to attack you. So like, and it's like even from the like every they like there's a habit kind of have to throw something at anywhere. Like it cannot be a dog or something like that. So they just throw the stone for fun. But when you tell kids are very receptive, so they really take that. So why also we more focusing on the school education is that the children are really receptive and we can mold them at a younger age as opposed to
Okay, so
talking.
let me be devil's advocate here. A lot of the times, the mauling stories we read about involve children from lower income households, very small children. Because remember, we're talking about homes that are built on the side of the street that are 6 by 4, maybe less than a small room. There's not enough space for the child to be
And you can't
contained.
have a nanny per child to
No.
look after that child.
These
Which we
parents
also
are
understand.
working in the
Yeah.
labor sector. They're not
Yeah.
always there. There's an older child looking after a younger child. These
Yeah.
are the
Yeah.
This is the reality of the world we
I
live in.
agree.
Right?
I
We
agree.
all wish it were different, but
I
this is
agree.
the world we live in.
Yes.
How do we teach these children not to,
So Faye,
approach?
I think simultaneous to the child education that you're doing, and this has to be a 360-degree approach, right? But the fact is, when I'm pathologically scared, I'm not going to remember to be a tree, which is what we teach children, like be a tree. I'm scared and the dog's charging at me. No matter, how much you tell the child, don't move, that's not going to help. Again, here we need to come together as a society, and instead of the society being split together as dog people and non-dog people, see that this is an our problem. On my road, I know this is a dog who's reactive or is learning to be reactive. Please hire a behaviorist. Training a stray dog can be hard because you're not going to be able to train a stray dog and catch and do training, but we can do such a thing that every housing society has a kennel. The doggy goes there in day hours, or in the hours that school leaves and the buses can come in every day. At night, the doggy goes out, does the guarding duty she is supposed to do as a community dog. So housing societies always being split between, have to recognize this as our problem, because a doggy is going to bite a dog lover's child as much as a non-dog lover's child or anybody's child. And we cannot keep telling children or somebody who has phobia to control their fear. That's the whole point. It's fear. You do not control it. We are going to have to control the dogs. We are going to have to maybe remove some dogs into long stay shelters. And I mean long stay farms, boardings. It takes money, but that's a nice thing about money. It can help us with our problems. And it's a good place to put it.
No, because on one hand, we're making this argument that the environment belongs to the dogs as much as it belongs to human beings.
Yes.
At the same time, it also belongs to those human beings who are afraid.
The nexus is, I don't kill you, you don't kill me. That's the pact.
Yeah.
That's the pact we make with doggies, right?
So you were saying that anyone who has noticed an aggressive dog, a dog who is already bitten, needs to work with an NGO to have that dog move to a safer place.
Behaviorist, NGO with a
Yeah.
behaviorist. The NGO has the resources, the behaviorist has the science, and hence the solutions. You know, love doesn't solve it, like we know with our ex-boyfriends. So
Shivani, yes.
The government, the I also feel that the government can.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I also feel that like at some point government should invest in this kind of a what Mitali mentioned as a long stay shelters, and the government should invest that and have a behaviorist train, because it's very important, because like like that needs to be solved in the, like for example there are certain dogs that when they're young, like somebody would have chased them or somebody would have irritated them when
yeah,
they're going on a bike, so they keep chasing them. It's a behavioral thing. So
yeah,
with the kind of behavioral intervention at a large scale where the government is involved, how government is involved with us with the rabies program or with the awareness and even for the garbage and everything. So the government should also invest in these kind of
they should
solutions
just
at least.
hire. You know, they don't need to invest. They
Yeah,
just need to hire, grant land to NGOs,
correct.
hire a specialist like you
Absolutely.
do for trees or infrastructure.
Totally.
So I
Yes.
wanted to say something. I think we need to also, shelters are places for sick dogs,
Yes.
traffic accidents. You cannot pick up a healthy dog and put him in there because you want to get him out of his space.
Yes.
We need a lot more animal sanctuaries, I would say, which are not cages, which have trained staff in them to care for certain dogs. You need behaviorists on ground. You need trained animal handlers in there with them, because then you're just moving him out from somewhere and putting him somewhere. And
Yeah.
unless you have that trained staff in there, you're not really solving the problem.
Maybe
You're just
existing boarders
making
and
space.
kennelers could
Yeah.
be co-opted into this with a kind of scheme,
Yeah,
like
maybe
things
train
because they
as
have
a
the space and
behaviorist with
infrastructure.
kennels. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like in Goa, I think the DSPCA
yeah,
works with
Lonavala has
certain
some.
NGOs and kennels, and they do send certain dogs for behavior modification. So yes, behavior
I think just
modification.
connecting existing. I think all of these do exist in pockets. It's connecting each one of them because
I
boarding
think not
kenning places
enough
have
though.
farms.
Yeah, but
Not
not
Yeah,
enough,
enough
but
though,
I,
city
I, no,
wise.
yeah,
I want to share this story. So I have a dog who's now been with me for 4 years. She was adopted as an adult. There was an NGO that found her on the street. So we don't know anything about her history, how long she's been on the street, how old she is, what her breed is. And even though she was really, almost docile almost all the time, she would react to certain people and we couldn't figure out why. It took a behaviorist to figure out that she would react to men of a certain age group who were wearing backpacks, right? So now, now that I have that information, when someone's coming into the house, I have to tell them to take off their backpack, hand it over to me, and then come in without carrying a bag, because that seems to trigger her. We don't know why, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done when when you bring a dog that has spent a certain amount of time on the road into a society, and expect that dog to live among humans. There's a lot of background work that needs to get done. Who is going to do the work for the community dogs? I mean, when the dog is in my house, yes, I will get the vaccinations done. I will go to the vet. I will give her supplements for her knees. I will try and figure out what's triggering her. But how do we get communities to take responsibility in a similar manner for their community dogs? Because, the fights that break out, actually, I personally believe, make things even more
they're
harder.
vicious. Yeah,
They're vicious.
but
The
every
fights that
housing
break out between
society
the
has
human
a
beings, not
not the
the
animals.
dogs.
But you see, every housing society has a festival committee, has a gardening committee, and I know gymkhanas such as what's the big one in South Bombay? They have an animal committee and they allot a portion. Not the Bombay Gymkhana. It'll come to me. So Wimbledon.
Wimbledon.
Yes.
No, Wellington. Sorry, my mistake. So Wellington, they have an animal committee, and they get a portion of their funds, and they come up with solutions for the raptors, for their streeties, for their cats, all of them. So why can every housing committee not allot funds for animals within that, and then have involved, educated members who form solutions, just as we do for festivities, just as we do for games for kids or whatever else, gardens. It's a problem we all have, no?
Yeah. Shivani?
I think that's a great idea. Like, honestly, I genuinely believe that people with certain skill sets need to step into animal welfare. And that's the way we change standards and raise standards, because you can't just put it on the government to do it. You can't just put it on the NGOs to do it. They're all overwhelmed. And there should be enough. So I run Give Goa Dogs as a citizen. So I'm stepping up as a citizen to help. I'm just there to help. Help the welfares, help the dogs, all coexist in harmony. So when we are working with communities, when we're working in areas, our simple logic is you feed a dog 3 times, he becomes your friend. You show him kindness, they come to you. If we can just feed them, vaccinate them, and just not mistreat them, there's a way to coexist. And there would be no reason to be reactive. They don't feel threatened then. I'm working from that space, where we're just kind of building it from there on the root level. And working with kids in schools and, working with working dogs and showing children that we're not just going there and talking to children, we're taking the dogs with us, so they can actually have hands-on experience with dogs. So that's the work one is doing.
I want to ask Mitali this, and I'm going to put this later on our larger social media as well. Something happened there.
Yeah.
Mitali, my question to you is this. You did say, of course, we tell children that if you're being chased by a dog, become a tree. Can you explain to us what let's assume there's someone who's not a dog lover, who is not comfortable around dogs, who's afraid, and they see a dog coming towards them. What should they do?
So the first thing is to become immobile. So when we say become a tree, is kind of this is how we explain it to children. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is how we explain it to children, to become immobile. So you pull in your branches, because this is what a dog is going to go for. See this motion? You look down at your roots, so you look at your feet, you're immobile, and it's the eye contact that to a dog is sort of a threat, is a challenge. If you're holding a bag like a backpack, you hold it in front of you. So you're basically protecting all your organs. And while this is said, and it does take a lot of visualization, please remember these are children. So while I understand this is helpful, it is not the only strategy I would rely on, especially not with children, not with seniors. Yeah, because see, that you're uncertain because your faculty is not working as well. You're not going to be able to run away as much. You have a stick. That's who are you as a senior person. This is a very real fear. So I'm really on more of the human side at this vulnerability. But that's what being a tree is. Look down at your roots, pull in your branches. If you have a bag or something, hold it and stay immobile until the doggy moves away. The dog moves away and
you're saying do not make eye contact. Do not attempt to chase the dog away. Do not attempt to run in the opposite direction.
The running will trigger the prey chasing someone, like with they chase motorbikes. Eye contact is a challenge in the doggy world. It's not kindness. And that's just how dog language is. And remember, stray dogs, because of generations of living on the street and speaking amongst their own kind, they're not as dependent on humans as pedigree dogs are, where they've pedigrees have learned to observe and understand human language because the survival depends on it. Stray dogs don't speak human language as well. So don't go to kiss it on the head. It does not look at it as a kiss. It is not, the hug is not a hug. It is a threat. Eye to eye contact, face to face level contact is a threat. It puts you at more chances of being bitten. So don't go now to say, hi, Tommy. If Tommy doesn't like it, and most likely Tommy has had more averse experiences with humans than she's had good ones, you're more likely to be bitten.
Yeah, I want to bring in the rest of the panel here as well. One of the things for, which is what I'm gathering from this conversation, for the dog lovers in every community or every location to do is to get together, to form a group, work with the local municipality and say, hey, how can we look after? So these are the 5 guys we're taking responsibility for.
Yeah, but dog professionals also, the term dog lovers is one, but pet professionals, because we need that
canine behaviorists.
Behaviourists, yes,
behaviourists and trainers need to come in.
Yeah, it's not just the lovers.
Okay, but like someone needs to put the money together, and that could be the lovers. To just say, hey,
that should also be everybody, right? It should be the
housing society itself.
The
civic body
the
also.
Government, it should be everyone involved if we want to take care of the animals.
We have to take it as our problem. Yeah. And it is
And it's
our
not
problem. We
just
need to stop
citizens.
shunting it about.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Balaji, from a health and a safety point of view, there's obviously this, and I've experienced this, where doctors, regular doctors in hospitals, have a very averse reaction to bites. They
Yeah.
will give the individual all the vaccines in the book, saying, oh, no, no, if they scratch the skin, let's not take any chances. And that tends to, in my opinion, build a larger fear, because you're talking about 12,000, 15,000 rupees, spent in reaction to that bite. What is a logical way to approach a bite when it does happen?
So the two things in here, see, for a primary healthcare giver, a physician, when they see this bites, like where the bunch of muscle is coming off, there is some deep pain, so they feel horrific themselves when they're treating. That's one thing. It's really when they see that, but also there is certain protocols from WHO and Indian guidelines where you have to give this, like, even a single drop of blood comes out, then you need to get vaccines and you need to get rabies immunoglobulin. But the interesting part is, like with our work in Karnataka government, when we are working with health department and animal husbandry department, so Karnataka government has, like, it's given free everywhere. The anti-rabies vaccine, they have made rabies as a notifiable disease, anti-rabies vaccine and anti-rabies rabies immunoglobulin, which is a costlier one, which is made free in all the primary health centers and across the state, which is like even more encouraging for people. Like when they get bitten by a dog, they need to get treatment. There is no missing that. That is one thing. And the second thing is, it's not like the ages behind that where you take some 16 injections. Now it's very small prick. You can take as simple as intradermal injection where you will not even feel the pain of it. So the people were discouraged before because of the number of injections they want to take. They still have that notion that they need to take that 16 injections around their navel. So that's not there anymore. And it is very simple intradermal injections or maximum intramuscular injections. So this is being thing. And most of the governments are making it free. And because that we have a national and an international goal of making rabies free, eliminate dog mediated rabies by 2030. So there is a mandate and from WHO, FAO, and World Organization for Animal Health, as well as India has released National Action Plan for to eliminate dog-mediated rabies by 2030. So every government is coming forward to mitigate the rabies issue.
It's very interesting. We have Ramya, who has said that at the same time, we have human beings who are constantly littering. Can a behaviorist please train the humans to not litter? And this is so true, because we expect that someone will come in and train the dogs, but it's human bad behavior that is not being altered either, right? Food that's being tossed to the side. We're not being responsible about how we deal with garbage, for example. And that somehow, there's this sense that human beings are never going to sort of learn. Mitali?
There's this shock and prong collar that we don't like to use on dogs. I'm happy to send it too. You could try it out. We don't like to use it on our dogs at all, but I've heard it's effective.
I'm just going to circle back to this point. The fact that, at the end of the day, we are talking about, we have talked about the community animals. I also want to talk about, and there's been a fair amount of this as well, especially in the Noida society stories. We call them Noida society stories as journalists, because there's a lot of this like lift CCTV camera that comes out. Dogs that are pets, but are aggressive, attack people in lifts, attack delivery people. What is the solution there? We know the law says that if it's your dog and you know it's aggressive and you haven't taken the right measures, then you will be held accountable. But not enough of that is actually implemented. What is the solution there? How can people who look after dogs as pets be held more responsible for the behavior, because they're obviously doing something to trigger these dogs?
No, I don't think if people are triggering this dog, I think we're not taking responsibility for our pet dog. If it's my dog and I know at home if she's reactive, Why am I not investing in a trainer? If I'm going to pay 2 lakhs for a dog and I'm going to research for 5 months, and that's what my mentor always says, children says, you for 5 months, you'll research a car to buy, but you get up in the morning and go get a dog from a Ludhiana breeder. And he's a fighting breed. And you don't want to get a trainer. Get a trainer, put on a muzzle. This is your dog. Eventually, the dog is going to be harmed because she bites 3 people, and then you ship the dog off in the middle of the night to some kennel where she's imprisoned for the rest of her life. How's that fair to the dog? It's your dog. You took responsibility. You should be invest in a trainer. You send your child to school. You send your dog to school.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, it says like your dog is not for Christmas. Your dog is for life. So, and it's not like you take full responsibility of it, like how everybody take full responsibility of their children. So you take full responsibility of the children, and you
The
get
dog has to sit
like,
in the elevator on the side.
Yes. Like dog doesn't know which is elevator and what is. It's all human behavior, like taking an elevator, car, scooter, public places, park. So you need to be responsible for that and get
Absolutely.
your pet whatever is needed.
Why aren't you guiding your dog on how to behave in a public place? And everything outside your house is a public place. You cannot lunge at people on the elevator. You cannot lunge and run after children in the park. And the more we do this, you see, this is going to build a society that's going to be good for dogs, because as we see now, we have a lot more cafes that at least in Navi Mumbai where I live, because our dogs are well behaved. So they're welcome in cafes. They're okay being tied up.
I mean, this is, for example, in Paris, in France, if you get a dog, you are required to do a certain level of training with the behaviorist, and your dog has to pass that training and get a certificate saying your dog has been trained to be in public places. And, only then you're allowed to keep that dog. And I don't see why that can't be,
And if we don't do that, our dogs are going to be taken away. You see, what's going to happen is blanket breeds of this breed is not going to be allowed. The German Shepherd, one bite has happened. No more German Shepherds allowed. That's what. And then the people who are breeding German Shepherds already have German Shepherds. What are you going to do with those? You're going to have to kill puppies. So the dogs are going to suffer the most. And we're going to have blanket bans on. And it's already happening, right? BMC parks, you can't take your dog because we just start picking up poop.
Yeah.
It's responsibility. At the end of the day, you have to be responsible. You have to pick up after your dog. You have to medicate your dog. You have to train your dog. And you have to socialize your animals, at a right age with trainers and behaviorists so they can be a part of the society we live in. Even the community street dogs. I remember I read someone's article saying these dogs on the street didn't fall from the sky, I mean, where have they come from? It's because certain people have not been responsible and sterilized their free roaming home and outdoor dogs, or just taken care of dogs in the community. If we all come together and decide we want to do this and care for them, I really believe we can make an impact, and one is trying it out in Goa and it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to leave it there. And I want to thank all 3 of you for giving us time and for having this conversation. If our audience watching at home feels that there needs to be more conversation around this topic, please leave your questions in the comments section. And we'll try to put together educated conversations so we can all understand how to, tackle the problem better, how to talk to each other about it, most importantly, and how to take responsibility for the animals who we share our environment with. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Have a nice evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.